Welcome back to KeithTalks. This is the third episode, and I don't exactly have a game plan for what we're going to talk about today, but I figured I could tell you some stories, talk about what's new. So the other day, we had ordered. Really, my fiance ordered these. I just have the wallet that the money came from. So we ordered a changing pad for like a changing table because my cousin is having a baby, and we're going to go to the baby shower, and we got her a gift, obviously. And so we ordered this changing pad, and she's one of those people who is like super into like organic shit and like vegan shit. So we had never even heard of this company before that we ordered this changing pad from. And so we finally get the changing pad, right? And then it didn't say anything about our order being delivered or anything. So, all right, whatever. We didn't really think about it much. And then 2 days later, we got an email that said that the changing pad would be there the following day, which didn't make any sense to me. We didn't order two. We did double check. We went back and made sure that we did not order two changing pads by accident. So next day comes and goes. We didn't see it, and then the day after, we got the second changing pad. And so obviously, now we're thinking, all right, we don't need two changing pads. I don't know where the mistake came from, but obviously we can return one of them and we can get a full refund because it's their mistake. And so that's what we did. We started talking to this company. Like I said, we had never heard of this company before, so their return process was a little weird. We had to email them personally and then send them pictures of it to make sure that we still had the item. And then we finally got an email back about a day later after we had sent them the pictures that they asked for. And so the email reads, "Thank you for sharing this information with us. We have spoken to the team, and at this point, we do not need you to return the item, and the refund has been issued to your account and will be in your account in 3 to 5 business days," or whatever it said. And so yeah, so now we have two changing pads just sitting around doing nothing. And we got the refund, and now I just thought that it was crazy that a company can mess up and then not want that product back. But I brought it up to my friend, and he made a good point that if this company, which, like I said, they're like a fully vegan company and organic and shit. It was like mammoth wool or something changing pad, some weird like. Something weird like that. So basically, if say a $50 changing pad is the cheapest or second cheapest thing on their website, and they have $500 car seats and $2,000 cribs on their website, obviously they're not going to be going crazy trying to get the $50 changing pad back, which I thought was a very good point. But I still think it's crazy. $50 is $50, no matter if you're, selling $2,000 cribs or not. I mean, it's just pure loss on them. That's $100 worth of loss on them because they sent us two. I just thought it was crazy that happened, that a company would let that slip. But I guess probably doesn't help that I think they're not like a huge company. Obviously, they're a big brand, but not like Graco or something. So yeah, that's that. And I know that I was talking about in the first episode how I'm trying to be a better person. I also struggle a little bit with um, what I'm doing, and the fact that I don't necessarily have. Obviously, I still have some friends, but I don't have nearly as many friends as I did when I was in high school, or even right after high school. Um, so I've been thinking about it, and I actually reached out to two of these really good friends that I used to have that I haven't talked to in a long time, and yeah, we've been talking like nothing ever happened. I had texted them when my daughter was born to tell them like, hey, baby girl's here. Here's a picture of her, and then that's the last time I talked to them. It was about 4 months ago, and before that, I really didn't talk to them much else. So, yeah, it's been great. We've been shooting the shit all morning, and yeah, it makes me really happy. But I think we're gonna catch up soon. Maybe grab a beer or something. I haven't been drinking much because I don't think that it's necessarily the best habit to have, especially as a father. But I I don't think there's anything wrong with having one or two drinks socially every couple of months. As long as I don't make it a habit, because I definitely was making a habit of it before, and I don't want to get back to that. Um, and another thing, I don't think that I've talked about this, but I used to struggle a lot with weed. I was a huge stoner for like 3 or 4 years. I would say I had two serious girlfriends in high school, and after I broke up with the second, um, I don't know. I had a group of friends that aren't necessarily the best influence, and yeah, I started smoking every day with them. I would go hang out, and we would work on our cars and just smoke, and I definitely it was. I know people say you can't be addicted to weed and blah blah blah. I don't care what people say. If you have an addictive personality and you do something every single day that makes you feel good and makes you happy, you will get addicted to that thing. I don't care what people say about it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm not trying to say that I'm a full-fledged addict or anything, but I definitely have had my vices in the past, and I still do, obviously. Like I just said, I've been trying to stop drinking. And so yeah, it was just not good, the amount that I was struggling with weed. It was like 3 or 4 years every day, all day I would smoke. And of course I was working in a restaurant at the time, and restaurants. If you've never worked in a restaurant, you probably don't know this, but they are not good places. I would say that some of the worst people I've ever met worked in a restaurant, worked in the restaurant that I worked at. And weed was like nothing to these people. Like, I would see the head chef go out to his car, pop the trunk, and then stick his head in, and looked like he was doing a line or something. It looked like he was doing something suspicious in there, and then he'd come back fucking all excited, all energetic, and bouncing off the walls. And yeah, it's just not a good environment, especially if you have, like I was saying, an addictive personality, because they pretty much endorse that shit. I would be like, oh, I gotta go out and smoke. They'd be like, yeah, all right, don't take too long. Just like totally cool with it, which obviously that's on me too. I definitely should not have ever thought it was okay to be doing that at work, because it's not. No matter what you're doing, if you're working on cars and you're putting $60,000 trucks up on lifts, it's not cool. If you're working in a kitchen line and you're using a knife all day, every day, not cool to be smoking. Trust me, I know. I've cut myself a fair few amount of times. It's not cool. Don't do it. It's just, it wasn't a good environment for me to be a stoner in. And I was. And honestly, I probably never would have gotten out of that if it wasn't for my dog, my dog that I talked about I think it was in episode 2. I talked about how I have a tattoo of my old dog. He was a Newfoundland, Toby. He passed away in July, and I think it was July 9th. And the day that he passed away, I smoked that day, I smoked the next day, and then I put it down, and I've done it maybe 2 or 3 times since, and obviously I regret those times, but I'm very proud. It's been well over a year. I think it's been over a year and a half now that I haven't been smoking every day, and it's huge. It really is. It was. I would get angry all the time. I know that weed is supposed to chill you out, but that's not necessarily always the case. And yeah, I would. It was just not good. Obviously, it wasn't good to lose a loved one like Toby. We called him our soul dog. But yeah, I mean, it definitely was a blessing and a curse that I had stopped after that. And then yeah, it's just, I'm just very glad that I cut it out of my life and I haven't been doing it every day. Obviously, I would probably do it again. Not like, obviously, I never want to go back to what I was doing. But I think, like I said about drinking, I think once in a while is way different than every day, all day. So, speaking of weed, I'm actually reminded of this story as I'm talking about this. So, I have this friend, or I used to have this friend, I'll say, and I'll call him Ben for this story. So, Ben went to school, to college, about 6 hours away, and I hadn't seen him since high school. So, me and Ben, along with our other friend, I'll call him Gary. So we were all planning on going up I guess me and Gary would be going up for one weekend and hanging out with Ben again, because it had been, I would say, I think it was his sophomore year, so I think it had been a year and a half since I had seen him, because his family moved to where he went to school right after he got out of high school. So we had all been planning. We were all going to go up there and hang out for one weekend, and we were still underage at the time, but he was starting to become an addict, but like starting to dabble with drinking. He was always pretty straight edge. And, he was like, why don't you guys pick up some booze, and if you have any edibles, bring them up. And so that's what I did. I had my buddy buy some booze for us, and then, me and that same buddy, we had actually just made some edibles, because we were growing together at the time. We were growing a lot of weed at the time. We had just made some edibles probably a month before, and we were freezing them. That way they were still good whenever we wanted them. We'd just pop them in the microwave, and bada bing, bada boom. So yeah, I brought up some edibles, and this guy, mind you, he has never smoked before. He's never he drinks, but not like I drink, or like a normal person in college drinks. Like, he was drinking like, a couple of drinks every weekend or so. So I bring up these edibles, and they are fairly strong, I would say, because we're stoners, obviously, and we want to get the most out of our edibles. When we're taking edibles, we want to get fucked up, or at least that was our mindset. So, long story short, we get there. It's like a 6-hour drive, and then that night we were all just hanging out. A couple of his roommates were there with some of their friends, and yeah, so we were just drinking a little bit, and then he was like, "Oh, do you guys want to do edibles?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I brought edibles. If I mean, you guys definitely don't have to if you don't want to, but I'll do an edible for sure." So then my buddies Ben and Gary, we all started heating up edibles. So say they were maybe like 2x2 squares of brownies. So I would take a full one, and then I told them, "Hey, you should start on a quarter and see what happens. A quarter of that brownie." So that's what they did. They each had a quarter. And then after an hour, I was chilling. I was feeling great. But they said they weren't feeling anything yet. So obviously I was like, all right, well, why don't you guys try another quarter? So that's what they did. I heated them both up another quarter. And then maybe 5-10 minutes later, my buddy Gary, he was like, "Oh, dude, I'm feeling good now." I was like, "Oh, well, you're going to be feeling extra good then in, an hour and 15 minutes. And then 5 minutes later, my buddy Ben, he started feeling it, and he was not feeling good. He was freaking out a little bit. He was like, "Oh man, I'm feeling a little paranoid, to be honest with you." And I was like, "All right, well, that's not good, and we can't really do anything about the other one unless you think you can throw it up." And he couldn't. So then my buddy Gary, he's like, "All right, well, I'm exhausted. I'm gonna go lay down." And he just leaves and goes and lays down in bed. And then yeah, Ben and I are sitting there, and he's freaking out, doesn't know what to do. And I basically had to guide him through his paranoia and his first time being extremely stoned. And yeah, it was not good. Long story short, we had to call EMS, the campus EMS, and they came with an ambulance, and they pretty much talked him down, and he realized, life is still real, and everything's okay, and I'm going to be all right. And then, yeah, so I am permanently banned from the campus of his college. Not that I was, ecstatic to go back again after that kind of experience. That was probably one of the worst nights of my life, just because it was so paranoia filled, and it was uncomfortable, and yeah, it was not good. And honestly, I lost my lifelong friend because of it. We've never been the same after that night. He's always, it seems like, at least he's always seemed to hold a little bit of a grudge against me for introducing it into his life. And I get that. It was probably the worst night of his life too. But still, literally we were best friends from the first day of kindergarten until that day. And yeah, that's the story of my friend Ben and his experience with edibles. And that, looking back, that story actually has more to do with why I quit than I had originally thought. It was, probably 6 months before I ended up quitting smoking. And we had talked about it a couple of times in between then and when it happened. And every time he said he didn't hold a grudge, but it really, it did a number on me that I let that happen to him. And yeah, that was also a huge part of why I quit. I had been holding on to so much, like I pretty much had a grudge against myself for doing that to my own best friend and causing our own falling out. But obviously, there was nothing I could do at that point other than apologize and try and be a better person. But still, it was very upsetting. And yeah. And honestly, my life is a million times better without it. I really fell in love with this beautiful woman. We had a beautiful baby together, and we're getting married soon. And not that the money is so much better than when I worked at the restaurant, but man, it's just every aspect of my life is better, I would say, right now. But anyways, thank you guys for listening as always. I appreciate you. Wouldn't be here without you. And I love you. You're beautiful, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.